quorum. So we'll take care of some housekeeping first, and then I'll make a statement. But this is, I'm going to will it into existence. I'm going to speak it into existence. This is going to be a short meeting. So let's do roll call.
Aglagi?
Just joining now.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Great. Ball?
Here.
Fightmaster? Blakemore?
Here.
Bushelli?
Here.
Campbell?
I see Vanetta.
Here.
Escobedo, Galkin, Iskin, King?
Here.
Judge Klein? Cruz, Lee, Mahoney, Meeker?
Here.
Milrod,
Here.
Morales, Vargas, Al-Sarraf,
Hi, Dwan, I'm here.
Connolly,
Here.
Schreiber.
Here.
Let me count. We have one. Let me do our judges and our liaisons.
Great.
Justice Rodriguez, Judge Seligman,
Here.
Judge Yang,
Yeah, it's good.
Lack. I thought I saw Lauren. There.
I
Judicial Council,
Let's try Chrome.
Melanie and Laura.
I mean, that's what I was using.
Here.
Can I mute it? So I don't-
Elizabeth's here. OGC Brady and Raul are here. Okay.
Hi.
Okay, so Chris, I'll hand it back over to you. We do have quorum.
Great, thank you. Kim Wormsley, are you our Zoom housekeeping speechifier?
That's me, actually.
Jennifer. Okay, great.
So welcome committee members, liaisons, and members of the public to the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission meeting. Thank you for joining us. We will begin at 2:04 p.m. or I guess 2:01 we began. We are using Zoom with the goal to foster a more inclusive environment and effective meeting. If you would like to comment during the meeting, please use the raised hand feature. To use the raised hand feature by phone, dial *9 on your phone's dial pad to raise your hand and do the same to lower your hand. Please utilize this tool to virtually indicate that you would like to speak in order to help the chair facilitate the discussion. All Legal Services Trust Fund Commission and committee meetings will be recorded and posted to the State Bar website. A friendly reminder that this is a video conference as well as in person, and to please be aware of your surroundings behind you. Zoom captioning is available. To enable, select Live Transcript at the bottom of your Zoom screen, then select Enable Auto Transcription. Troubleshooting. Tip, for those using Zoom on a computer, when on mute, holding down the spacebar will temporarily unmute. If you use your phone to dial into this meeting, please be sure your computer's microphone is on mute to avoid audio feedback issues. And while joining audio via computer is highly recommended, if an individual loses audio, they can call in separately using the Zoom conference number. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. We have a single item on the agenda today, which is a revisiting of an item from the 6/23 meeting. Since that meeting took place, there were some developments, including the passage of the budget bill. So as you noticed when you reviewed the board packets or the agenda before this meeting, we just have one item to visit. I'm going to ask for public comment. Just a quick couple of housekeeping points about the proposal. The first is that in the last meeting, we had basically a tie. So we didn't have a majority of voting members. So that's the reason, or that was what occurred in the last meeting. The second point to make is that the proposal regarding LRAP involves the Access to Justice Commission and We have two members on the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission, Catherine Blakemore and Jim Meeker, who sit on both commissions, and it's been determined by the Office General Counsel that they have a conflict and therefore cannot participate in the discussions or the votes. That occurred last time as well, and I would just tell all members that their silence should not be construed as agreement or that they have no opinions. So with that, are there any members of the public? Well, let me start before that. Anything State Bar staff wants to add as part of the?
Just one technical note. I'm sorry, Commissioner Joseph Lee, your location was not noticed. So if you participate today, it would have to be as a member of the public. We apologize for that.
Understood.
So I don't get to vote or anything?
You don't get to vote, but you can participate in the discussion if Chris allows you.
All right, thanks for clarifying.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Joe. Anyway, yeah, it's a Bagley Keene thing, or a notice thing. So any further presentation or comments by State Bar staff about the recommendation that's before the commission?
No comments from us.
All right, so let's go ahead and see if any member of the public has anything they'd like to say. Can you raise your hand if you are a member of the public?
Kim, can you let 1% at a time? Unmute one member at a time.
Christian, before we move on, this is Banafsha, I just want to make sure that now that Joseph is not considered here today as a commission member, do we still have quorum?
Yes, we made quorum before Joe signed on.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Terribly sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. Go ahead, Jack.
My name is Jack London. I am the volunteer executive director of the California Access to Justice Commission. Thank you for letting me address you. The Access Commission strongly supports the proposal that the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission should issue guidelines and standards and rules that you deem appropriate for the use of IOLTA and equal access funding for an LRAP program, including the LRAP program, but not necessarily limited to the LRAP program that we are prepared to run. The Access Commission's role is a limited one, but an important one. We are authorized to make LRAP benefits available and can do so on a tax-advantaged basis. The reason we can do that is that we are a nonprofit and tax exempt under Section 501 of the Internal Revenue Code, and we can comply with the requirements for operating the program. What we cannot do is decide whether or not to make funds available or how much. That is a decision that rests with the legal aid programs and their funders. Our role, we expect our role to be limited in another way within the bounds of qualifying for the tax advantage and the statutory requirement that what our LRAP will cover is only the lowest repayment rates for the loans. Within those bounds, we want to leave as much decision-making as possible to the legal aid programs themselves and their funders. And the reason for that is this should be an effective program, and LRAP and the legal aid programs are in different circumstances. Some have collective bargaining agreements, and that means that for some of them, these provisions will have to be bargained. And some are in different circumstances. So our role in structuring the vehicle for making payments, if they're funded, is a limited one, and one we want to be flexible. The use of the money that you administer, IOLTA and equal access funding, is subject to your authority not the Access Commission's authority. The Legal Services Trust Fund Commission is the administrator of the IOLTA and EAF money. You've been clear in the past about broad support for an appropriate LRAP with IOLTA funds. And I support the clarification that EAF funds may be used for LRAPs, I believe. But it's your job to exercise the authority to decide whether to approve the legal aid program's proposed budgets using IOLTA and equal access funding. It would be very beneficial. In fact, I think it's necessary for the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission for this program to work well, for the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission to issue guidelines that tell programs what to expect about how you'll exercise that authority. There are lots of policy questions that embraces, and those are yours. We would look forward to sharing our thinking about the guidelines you would propose to set, about any limitations, about how to encourage or constrain legal aid programs to make a wise use of LRAP funding from IOLTA and EAF. But we don't decide those things. We'll make our views known to you, but the guidelines are for you to decide about the use of these funds, not us. For our part, the design of our operation and the benefits we'll be providing does involve decision-making. We have established an LRAP advisory committee to participate in hashing out those issues and making recommendations to be embodied in what we will do. And we would be very grateful if the Trust Fund Commission, as well as COAF and LAC, designate members of that advisory committee to participate in the process of the design of our product. But let me emphasize, we're doing a limited thing. We will be in a position, if funds are available, to make what are called refinance loans to cover interest and principal payments that we are in a position to forgive without the forgiveness being taxable, as it would otherwise be the case. If beneficiaries who serve low-income communities serve for a set period of time, all those parameters are subject to decisions by legal aid programs and by their funders, that is you. We would like to do this to be a great success. For it to succeed best, it would be great if you undertake the task of promulgating guidelines and standards. I'd be happy to answer questions if you have any for me.
Any members of the commission have questions for Jack? And I guess we can also, Jack, if you are going to stick around, some may come up, but I don't know if there are additional members of the public that would like to speak.
I will be here.
One more person. They should be able to talk now.
Hi there, my name is Linda Alvarado Ford, and I'm an immigration attorney and executive director at La Raza Centro Legal, a 501c3 50-year-old award-winning legal aid in the Mission District in San Francisco. And our vision and mission of our legal aid is to be the most trusted partner in free legal services in Northern California. And I'm happy to be addressing all of you today, and thank you for your work. I'm here to talk primarily in support of this LRAP program, and it's such an important tool in our toolkit. As a legal aid with an annual budget of less than $2 million a year, we've got 10 attorneys, some of them part-time, working in 3 legal departments: immigration law, workers' rights, and elder and disability law. We serve San Francisco and San Mateo counties. And with just 10 attorneys and a handful of paralegals, we provide almost 4,000 consults as well as full scope legal representation to low income Northern California Bay Area residents every year. And it has taken us the better part of 12 months to hire for an open staff attorney position that we've had. And we start out with our salaries at right around 90,000 for newly licensed California barred attorneys. And even with that salary, which is an SEIU union wage scale, and we are proud to be pro-union management legal aid, it literally took us almost 12 months to hire, even at that wage rate, to fill an elder law staff attorney position. So we really need LRAP as another benefit that we can offer to candidates for these staff attorney positions, because we're really up against all the law firms that are hiring and paying double and triple and 4 times what we can pay right out of the gate, and government jobs, which frequently pay minimum twice as much as what legal aid can pay. And we need to be able to recruit talent from law schools upon graduation. And some percentage of our law school grads need to commit to a career, or at least a handful of years or 10 years in legal aid. Somebody's got to look out for low-income Californians, and the LRAP program is essential. So I'm really grateful for those of you on the call who advocated for it. I'm grateful to the state senators and other legislators who voted for it. And I just want to thank Lauren Klein and everybody at Legal Aid Association of California and others who advocated for this really important program. I'll also be around if anyone has questions for me. Thank you.
Okay, any other either questions for Amanda or for Jack from members of the commission? And by the way, are there any other members of the public that wish to speak on this?
There's 2 more people. You want me to let the next one talk?
Yeah, please. We'll go through the 4 and then see if anyone has questions.
Okay,
Thanks, Kim.
no problem.
Hello. Hi, my name is Sunny No.
Sunny, you went mute for, we can't hear you.
Hi, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Sunny Now, and I'm a supervising attorney at Legal Aid of Sonoma County. I'm just going to really briefly comment. I have been a supervising attorney since 2003, working exclusively in legal services organizations, providing tenant rights advocacy. A challenge organizations like ours continue to face is creating a greater pipeline to legal services,
Usually give feedback.
especially for students of color.
I'm reading my audio.
The prior commenter shared.
Just go on yours.
For many law students, despite a desire to do this work or having a personal connection to this work or lived experience, it's financially prohibitive compared to government work and private practice. However, we all know that the need for this work is great and expanding. We applaud a program like this that allows agencies like ours to provide loan forgiveness to allow us to attract and retain more talent, and particularly prioritize trying to create more equity in the legal services community. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunny. Last member of the public.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, William.
Okay, great. Yes, my name is William Ryland. I'm the Grants and Contracts Manager for the Justice and Diversity Center of the Bar Association in San Francisco. And I wanted to express our strong support for the LRAP, for providing LRAP assistance to legal aid organizations in California. As a longtime IOLTA and EAF recipient, however, I want to also convey our desire that the LRAP funds, if they are drawing from IOLTA and EAF funds, be provided with flexibility that will allow grantees and qualified legal services providers to not have their IOLTA and EAF allocations reduced due to the implementation of an LRAP program. And that's all. But we are in strong support of LRAP, and we need it too, just like everybody else, to recruit and retain attorneys, which has been a very big difficulty for us, and I'm sure lots of others. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, William. Kim, any other members of the public with their hands raised?
me let Sunny talk again. I see her hand is back up.
I'm sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay, then there's no other person.
Okay, any members of the commission who have questions for the members of the public? Okay.
Chris,
oh.
hold on a second. Amanda has her hand back up. Amanda?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to note, I forgot to note that that attorney that we finally hired, the one for elder and disability law, who took us the better part of a year to hire, he said the reason why he selected our legal aid as opposed to private law firms to work at was because of loan forgiveness that he was eligible for his federal student loans. So that literally was the factor that pushed him to decide in favor of legal aid as opposed to a 5-attorney partner firm. So these are data points that we're actually seeing, and this particular staff attorney just started in June. So it's recent and relevant experience, and he himself comes from a community of color. We serve Black, Indigenous, people of color, Latinx immigrants, very vulnerable clients. And so I just want to highlight that fact. Thank you for allowing me to make this additional comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it. Okay.
Question? Chris?
Please go ahead, Melanie.
So just to clarify on what the speaker before Amanda said, which I thought was an important point, and that programs don't want their EAF and IOLTA grant funds reduced, but of course support LRAP, completely understandable. And I wonder, you know, how do we balance that, or if there's been discussions about that? Or is that
Can I
something
respond
we
to
didn't
that?
highlight? Sure.
Yeah, please, Dwan. Go ahead.
So, William, I'm not sure if you have an understanding of how the Access Commission's LRAP program works, but it's an opt-in. So if you don't choose to use your IOLTA or your EF funds or any other funds, it's not going to be reduced. It's at the choice. The programs, each program will have that decision. So we don't. The Trust Fund Commission is not going to be reducing your grant award for LRAP. That's a organizational decision that each organization will have to determine.
Great. Okay, so just as a reminder for folks, there's statutory language that vests the authority for the administration of the LRAP with the Access Commission. So that's in statute, and we are voting today not on whether we agree with that. We're not voting today on whether we agree on whether an LRAP program should exist. We're voting today on the narrow question of whether staff should be tasked with creating guidelines for programs who seek to use EAF and IOLTA money for this purpose. And I would just say that the staff recommendation, which persuaded half the group last time, was to allow them to spend time developing the guidelines because of the usefulness of those guidelines and the need for those guidelines to programs. So questions have already started coming in. No guidelines have been developed. I think the vote today, in the most straightforward way to put it, is to simply say that staff could use the authority, and the reason for the recommendation is to ensure that they're not sort of left hanging out there without the ability to develop guidelines, which will then be passed on to programs. There was a lot of talk at the last meeting about the prudence of the legislature's decision to codify the LRAP program in the manner in which it did through the budget language. And, you know, without revisiting all of that, I'd just say the there have been communications since June 23rd, the June 23rd meeting between various stakeholders, including Access Commission, myself, State Bar staff, COAF, and so it's evolving, and I think like there's generally a commitment to try to make things work better and to improve the communication. So again, this vote is quite discreet, and I'm going to entertain a motion to from the group. If there's any further discussion or question from the commission, now's the time to talk about it. But I'll entertain a motion and a second if there is one, and then we can discuss and then vote.
First, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Amin.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Angie. Okay. Any comments from commissioners who need clarification or are wondering what we're voting on here? Okay. Let's call roll.
Aglagi,
All right, never mind.
Oh, Will, did you?
Yes, I had a question.
Yep. Okay.
So my understanding is are developing this program, the commission and staff, the main advantage is it's tax-free for the grantee recipients, the staff that they hired. That's our value add.
Recording in progress.
Hold on,
I'm
I
not
gotta mute this.
Yeah.
I think, Will, you need to mute your computer. Okay.
Oh, I muted mine, that was the problem.
Brady, yeah, go ahead. I can respond, but if you do it, great. I see your hand up.
So I was just going to say it's sort of a separate issue. The program that Access Commission will put together will allow the loan forgiveness to be not taxable income for the employees. So that's a value add to their program. If we did a program, we could probably do that too, but that's not on the table. What's on the table is creating guidelines for our programs that want to participate in an LRAP, whether Access Commissions or another. They are under the law without guidelines able to spend their IOLTA and equal access funds to participate in an LRAP program as long as that's for qualifying work. But the value add of creating guidelines will be to erase ambiguities, give clarity to how they do that, what they can count as qualified expenditures, whatnot, how they should apportion things. So it's basically just giving programs direction, clarity, and flexibility on something that they're permitted to do under the law.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brady. Thanks, Will.
So if there's no one else, I have another question.
Who's that? Oh.
just Patience for San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Hi, Patience.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That little pinhead at the table in San Francisco. So last time it was quite an energetic conversation, and one of the issues had to do with, and I hear Mr. London, I appreciate his comments and they're clarifying, and that was very helpful to have heard from him. But I guess I'm not clear. Essentially, the Trust Fund Commission will allocate funding, and or does the funding go directly to the grantee organization, which then spends it by paying people, including for paying directly to the student loan lenders entities. I mean, how does the money get routed, and what exactly is the Justice ATJ, what's their role in this? Does the money get routed to them and they pay the lenders? How does this work?
Duan, I don't know if you,
hand.
yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth. I was gonna shoot at it, but you're gonna hit the target faster.
No, so Jack's raised his hand, so I unmuted him.
Yeah, just responded that the money that can be used for our LRAP program comes from the legal aid programs. And their ability to use IOLTA and EAF is subject to your regulation and guidelines and standards. Yeah, if you vote to set them, which we urge you to do. But the money goes to them. We have no authority to obtain or to use IOLTA or EAF funding unless a legal aid program makes the decision that a good use of its funds from those sources is to fund LRAPs. Now, you also asked how we will operate. What is entitled to be excluded from the recipient's gross taxable income is the forgiveness of a refinance loan. And one form of refinance loan is a loan we can make if the programs decide to provide the money for it to cover principal and interest payments on condition that the person who receives those benefits agrees to work for a set period of time in a legal aid program. If that happens, then the money that the program has decided to provide for our use is used either to reimburse the legal aid lawyers for payments that they make or to pay directly. Those are all things our advisory committee will be weighing in on. As I say, I'm in favor of as much flexibility as possible. That's how it works. If you have other questions, I'm happy to try to answer if you want me to.
Can I add to that? And I know this was already reviewed last time, when Erica made her presentation. So how it would work like operatively on our side is if there are guidelines that will be produced, what we would do is staff would work on it in the next few weeks, whether with the working group or with not working group, it would come back to this commission. It doesn't stop at the staff. Staff is just, workshopping ideas. It'll come back to the commission in August to approve. And the reason why the August date is important is at the August meeting, you also will be approving eligibility for IOLTA and EF funds the following year. After you make that approval, what happens in the office is we take that list of approvals, their qualified expenditures, and we take the next couple of weeks to run the allocation for them. Programs get their allocation, then they have 1 month to do their budgets. And why it's important that we need guidelines at that juncture is they need to know how much they can budget for IOLTA and EF respectively. So assuming they opt into Access Commission's LRAP program, a budget amount will be made. Staff will review the budget proposals. The commission will approve it in November. Programs will get their checks, their actual IOLTA EF checks in January. At that time or before or after, I'm assuming at some point the Access Commission will have their own separate LRAP application that the money that the programs receive from IOLTA and EF will then get remitted to the Access Commission. From there, we don't know, but that's how the money flows. The money flows from us to programs, but they need to do a budget for us, right? And we need to approve that to make sure it's all qualifying, and that's where the guidance comes in.
Okay.
Once we cut them the check and they have an approved budget, they will then cut a check to the Access Commission.
Got
And
it.
that other piece,
That was my
Access Commission will need to figure out.
That's my question. I have one more question, and that is, thank you very much. That is, when you talk about minimum lowest repayment rate for loans, I worry a little bit that that's an interest-only payment, and that would be sort of defeating the whole purpose. So I'm sure I'm incorrect about that. So what exactly does that mean, and whose definition of lowest repayment are we using, and what is it?
I believe it's income-based repayment, and Jack may have a better definition of that.
Well, first thing I'll say is those are all specifics to be worked out by either or both of our advisory group committee or the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission's guidelines. But along with the revisions that are being made by the Biden Education Department, the severe problem of increases in lending in amounts owed because of interest in excess of the amount that's covered by the income-driven plan is getting fixed. So in that context, the problem that I think you may be worried about, patients, is reduced. I'll also say that we have assistance, as does the Trust Fund Commission, as part of this process, of a national expert on the new revisions that the Biden administration is making. And so this is yet to be worked out in the best way, but the problem that you're concerned about, I think, can be avoided.
Yeah, just to underscore it, I don't think we have answers to that question. I think that's part of the policy development that needs to occur. So I'm going to keep it moving here. Melanie and then Jeff.
Hi, thanks. So my question may end up being that you don't want to answer this, or you haven't talked about this or not, but I noticed that in the bill there is a provision for administrative fees. And I'm wondering, it's practice in many of our projects that when we have administrative fees with judicial council and the state bar, we have a split. And I'm wondering, the council's staff's doing the bar staff doing work, is there a provision for you to share that money?
Just to clarify, so Melanie, I think what you're referring to is the $250,000 to administer LRAP, and that's going directly to the Access Commission.
Okay.
That is not a state bar administrative fee. That's wholly for the Access Commission. How we would bill in terms of the development of the guidelines. If the commission today chooses to pass it, what would operatively happen is whoever's the staff in the office of exclusion, we would bill it to IOLTA and EF. Our admin fees, the state bar's admin fees would be billed to IOLTA and EF for the development of the guidelines.
Okay, thank you so much.
Jeff?
So I guess my question comes from the perspective of the banks that are paying the interest into this IOLTA fund, and not having the clarity in terms of the oversight of these funds once it goes to Access to Justice. It's my understanding that they sought to separate themselves from the state bar. And my question is, what is the governance of this organization, and how can we establish the confidence for the banks that this money will be properly managed?
Yeah, I think I'll respond to that, Jeff. I think the answer is that the governance of the Access to Justice Commission is not within the purview of the Trust Fund Commission, and that the relationship between the Trust Fund Commission and the Access Commission is one that is, as was mentioned in the last meeting, maybe a bit strained, but we're trying to work through that. I think the way to do that is in part by adopting these guidelines that give comfort to the banks about oversight over that money and the security of our job in stewarding those funds appropriately. So I think the short answer to your question is that time is hopefully going to bear out a process that gives comfort to the banks. But we don't really have the ability, given the language that's in the statute, to address directly the concern that you're describing.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I am fully supportive of the concept of these monies being used for loan relief. I think it's extremely critical, and I recognize that need. I am extremely concerned by the manner in which all of this has come about. These are things that should have been worked out between the two organizations prior to getting to this point. And while I can appreciate the appropriate governance and standards that we have with the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission, I think, to proceed in having these funds then dispersed to an organization with unclear governance is going to be very troubling for the banks.
I mean, just to be clear, I'm not sure I would say that the governance of the organization isn't clear. I would say what's not clear is sort of what role the state bar will have in the process over which the bar can control the governance of, even of these funds. So I just, I don't think the Access Commission would say that their governance is unclear. And I don't want to leave the impression that, I think that. Erica and then Brady. Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
In response to that, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, that's the essence of my concern and my question. We don't know what that governance is. By unclear meaning we've never discussed it. We never worked together in terms of exactly how this is going to work. We're putting the cart before the horse, and that's very troubling.
Erica?
Thanks, Chris. I guess wanted to make the point that, the Access Commission is just triggering something that we, as the Trust Fund Commission, I think need to do, which is put together guidelines on how the Trust Fund Commission is going to administer funds that go into an LRAP. That LRAP could be the Access Commission, could be our commission, it could be another third party, it could be the entities themselves. Either way, as a responsibility for us on oversight, we need to create guidelines. The Access Commission has just precipitated that particular question. As to Jeff's concerns, that I think can be addressed in the guidelines, right? We can put in the guidelines that an LRAP program must have certain governance, certain appropriate oversight governance, et cetera, right? Obviously within the bounds of our authority, which we can consult with Brady and Raul and OGC on. But the fact, the fact that it's the Access Commission or whatever entity, all that is just a precipitation of something we need to get done, and that's do these guidelines. So I just want to try to separate those two issues out and just remind that. I know Chris had sort of pointed that out, but I want to just put together remind that that's that LRAP is going forward. Another entity could do an LRAP too. We need to come up with guidelines for how to deal with that. Those are my 2 cents.
Thank you. Brady?
Kind of similar to and complementary to what Erica said. I think that it's important to remember, again, under the current law, organizations our grantees can use their funds for an LRAP. So there's no guidelines. These guidelines will be for any use of IOLTA EAF funds for LRAPs. So there'll be more clarity and more guidelines where there was none. I think that already, obviously, when we give the grantees their money, there's oversight, but ultimately, they're responsible to the terms of their agreement. I think in this case, when they're turning their funds over to an organization to operate the LRAP, they're expecting and will notice if the compensation that's intended to fund for their employees is not happening. Separately, and I think Jack and Catherine can answer this. I'm not quite aware of the current governance, but I know that at least in some versions of the legislation that contemplates giving the $250,000, there is actually some statutory governance provisions, and the commission is now going to be nominated by specific members of the government, similar to the commission.
Thank you. So, all of my concerns that I discussed and spoke about in the last meeting still exist, potentially even more so, given the events, the conversations, the additional constituencies that are as concerned as we are with the way in which the current legislation was drafted, pushed through. We learned about it on the Sunday before the Monday that it was going to go to the floor. There's a lot there, right? So there's a lot of concern. My only thought, and again, I've been stressing this, that many of us are going to be terming out. 30 days or so will be mine and Christian's term will end. So for those of you who are still on the commission, and I'm singling out the two that have the conflict, who are on the commission, and separating them out, Jim and Catherine, to please be part of this guidance creation, be as much as part of the creating the language, mitigating as much risk and liability for yourselves as commission members on this commission. To Jeff's point, you don't have full and complete insight over what the other organizations are going to do with these IOLTA funds. So I think this is the last of it. It's obviously it was supposed to end up this way. It was supposed to go through. We weren't supposed to know. We weren't supposed to get in front of it. And this has nothing to do with being in support of the LRAP program. It came out of COAF. Our staff at the commission supported it, championed it. We absolutely believe that there should be an LRAP program. So thank you to the public comments this afternoon to hear the programs and the impact for them. We support it. I was on the initial subcommittee. So we want to definitely see it in the community and have the positive impact that we know that it can have. But also at the same time, I want to encourage, invite the commission members here who are going to be carrying the torch to make sure that this commission, this body is protected. Thank you.
Thanks, Banashe. Amin, I want to clarify what the motion you made is, because I note that the resolution that was in the board packet it's the same one that was on the 23rd, and I think we should just clarify that it's no longer in anticipation of a statutory change. There's an actual statutory change. So I think actually we can strike that clause, and I want to make sure you're good with that, so that the resolution we'd be voting on is resolved that the LSTFC will develop guidelines regarding the use of IOLTA, EAF, and if applicable, any other state bar administered funds. And that's the resolution that you've moved upon. Is that fair?
That's fair. So moved. I think that.
Okay.
I can read it back, but I think the way that you characterize it is exactly right.
Okay. And state bar staff, no issue with that. Is that fair?
Yes, that's fair. And this
Okay. So,
Angie, is that correct?
so there's not a further resolution, which is the second part of what was in the June 23rd board packet. It's just the resolution. I'll read it again just to be clear. Resolved that the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission will develop guidelines regarding the use of IOLTA, EAF, and if applicable, any other state bar administered funds. Period. Okay, so we have a motion from Amin on that resolution in the second. Angie, is that right? Okay.
I'll do roll call.
Thank you.
Awangi,
No.
Ball,
No.
Fightmaster, Blakemore, Bashelli,
Yes.
Campbell,
No.
Escobedo, Galkin, Iskin, King,
Yes.
Judge Klein,
Yes.
Cruz, Lee, Mahoney, Meeker, Milrod.
Yes.
What I just want to say, based on California Bar Council, I'm recusing from voting.
Thank you, Kajimi. Milrod,
Yes.
Morales, Vargas, Al-Saraf,
Yes.
Connolly,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Let me do a count. 7 is, can I do a vote check on that from either Brady or the other staff taking notes?
That's what I have.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, and just to be clear, yeah, it's a majority of voting members, and so I believe that passed 7-3.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That is the end of the.
How many commissioners are there right now?
We have just 2 non-voting due to recusal members.
There should be 11 present.
Yeah, which brought, it's actually, I thought it was 12 present. And Joe Lee, as a member of the public, doesn't unfortunately count toward the 13th.
Yeah,
But
Efren is also a member of a public, because his note, he's on notice, he's not in a notice location. Isn't it just majority though, Brady? We already reached.
Yeah.
Majority.
Yeah, as long as we had quorum. It's
Yeah.
just majority.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we've reached the end of the agenda. I would say that we have another meeting. September is our next commission meeting.
August, actually, August.
August, excuse me. And there are, what's the date of that one? Do you know offhand?
I believe it's the 10th, but
Yeah, so I think that's right. Oh, I don't think it's the 17th.
It's August 10th.
Great. So we have a meeting in about a month. I would say there's likely to be, further discussion or updates about this subject. So I don't think this is going to go away. And so hopefully we'll have more to report out. And I appreciate everybody being here today and taking this back up. I hear your concerns and understand them, and we're doing our level best to try to do our jobs here as commissioners. Erica?
Just before we go, if we're going to do the guidelines, like is there like a working group that's going to do that, or what's?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we had in the in the memo that Erica presented last time was the staff would like to have 2 commissioners as a working group. We would also invite LAC at that point to brainstorm with us some guidelines. If there are not, because the time crunch is really short now, if there are not 2 commissioners that volunteer, then the staff will proceed with just developing guidelines, filtering them, having LAC review them, provide feedback, and then we come back to you in August. So it just depends if we get 2 commissioners that volunteer.
I'd be interested in working on this.
Thank you, Patience.
Yeah, Dwan, I'll connect with you about that after as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Judge Seligman?
Just a point of privilege. I just want to say hi to Patience Milrod, who I haven't seen in years.
Hi, Judge, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good. That's what this commission is about in time. So that's great. Thank you all for being here today. Thanks, staff.
Chris, can I make one more announcement before we leave? So the August meeting is our last meeting that we're together for the term. It will be in person in San Francisco and Los Angeles. There will always be a remote option, but we do encourage you to come. Hopefully it'll be a fun meeting and you can all see each other and see the staff too. So.
Yeah, great. It is nice to be in person. So if you can make it, please try. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Bye, thanks.
Thank you.